everyone, welcome to my Retro Media Room. Today we're going to take a look at 5 more Xbox 360 games that are not backwards compatible but are still worth checking out in 2024. If you like this kind of content, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep up with my latest videos. Share it with your friends, hit the like button to help me with the algorithm. I really appreciate it because once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'll be monetized to bring you better content. And to start off our list, we're going to take a look at Marvel Ultimate Alliance, developed by Raven Software and released by Activision. So Ultimate Alliance has quite the checkered history of releases across 3 different generations, from PlayStation 2 and Xbox to Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and eventually remastered on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So when it comes to licensing issues, delistings, and the DLC of the game, that's where things get a little bit murky and complicated. So when it comes to the DLC itself, it was exclusive at the time to Xbox 360, which was the Heroes and Villains pack that had 8 additional playable characters, 4 villains, 4 heroes, the 4 villains being Sabretooth, Venom, Magneto, and Doom, and the heroes being Cyclops, Nightcrawler, Hawkeye, and Hulk. So what's happened to that pack since then, it's been delisted from Xbox Live, which I happen to own, so I have access to it as you can see. But if you didn't purchase it back in the day, you can no longer purchase it. The only way you can purchase it on Xbox 360 is if you were to find a physical copy of the Gold Edition, which has all the DLC on the disc, but good luck with that. That's about a $150 to $200 game. Also note, there's no physical copies on Xbox One or PlayStation 4, so that's not another workaround for playing the game. If you don't own it digitally, you ain't playing them. That's unfortunate, because that is the best way to play the game if you happen to own either one. Otherwise, this 360 version is quite good, especially if you have the DLC for it. But if you don't, there's still a really solid game here. So this is an isometric action-adventure RPG. You can have up to 4 characters at a time, choosing from the large pool of characters in any order you wish. As you upgrade and discover new powers, you're able to have 4 powers at a time in any combo you like. So there's a lot of customization here. This game is very fun, pretty high octane, similar to Diablo, if not faster than Diablo. Being able to switch between any of your 4 characters on the fly is a lot of fun and keeps the game fresh. But what's really impressive about the game is how detailed and faithful it is to the comics, just like X-Men Legends before it. The voice acting is really good with the stellar cast. Even down to the individual costumes you unlock for your characters have their own stats to them, so they really didn't pull any punches here. I've always loved this game. I beat it back in the day, so if you never got around to owning it or playing it originally, and you're looking for a copy now, at the very least, this base copy here is about $15 off eBay, so that's really not that bad. Yes, you're missing out on the DLC, and that's unfortunate, but the base game is still a lot of fun, absolutely worth playing. So yeah, this is worth hunting down and checking out. Next up, we have Quake 4, with this port being done by Raven Software, originally developed by id and then published by Activision. It's truly unfortunate how this is still the only console port of Quake 4 that's ever released. Even after Microsoft bought out Bethesda id, they still haven't done anything with this, even backwards compatibility. So while that's unfortunate, at least you're still able to play it on your Xbox 360. What's unfortunate about this port, and it was criticized for it back in the day when it was released, the id Tech 4 engine on display here, while it looks really sharp and is highly detailed with great lighting effects, everything you would come to expect from id Tech 4, the frame rate is pretty abysmal here, especially compared to the PC version if you had the right rig at the time. But beggars can't be choosers. If you don't have this on PC or aren't willing to play it on PC and you have an Xbox 360, that's the only way you're going to play this on consoles. Having said that, the game is actually quite fun with great atmosphere. Now, I'm not saying this is as good or better as Quake 1 or 2. Those are very different games. Quake 2 being my personal favorite of the series. But there is quite a bit of fun fragging to be had here. The guns feel great. The sound effects are good. Like I said, the id Tech 4 does shine in terms of its clarity and lighting effects and detail. The gunplay does feel good, even though the frame rate doesn't allow it to feel as good as it could. But it still feels quite nice and fun. The semi-automatic, when you zoom in with your main assault rifle, is hard-hitting and satisfying to use. The shotgun with its thunderous blasts is quite a bit of fun, sending them flying into ragdoll. Your squad is actually pretty good here. They actually shoot at the enemy. They don't just stand around looking dumb, so that's nice. The story is actually pretty cool here, whereas down the line in the story, they turn you into a Strogg by dismembering you. It's grisly and gruesome. This was before Dead Space, so this was pretty grisly at the time. The production values overall are quite nice. The voice acting and dialogue are pretty decent. They went kind of for more of a movie feel. I mean, even though Quake 2 clearly was going more in that direction, this one took it even further. Even though overall it's not better than Quake 2, but you can see how they tried to take the production values further than ever before. Now, what's also interesting about this release, how it has the additional bonus disc that includes Quake 2. Now, yes, I know you're thinking there's a current release of Quake 2, which is the premium way to play Quake 2 on consoles, but the interesting thing about this is before it was remastered, so all the CGI and cutscenes in the game are the original versions you remember. So if you're a purist to the original and you want to see it exactly the way you remembered, this is an interesting way, or the only way, to experience the full original game on consoles in really nice fidelity. The frame rate is a buttery smooth 60 frames a second, beautiful resolution. Because it was an older game running on newer hardware, this was like maximum PC settings on consoles. So really interesting port. My only complaint about Quake 2 on 360 is that the analog controls, particularly with aiming, is a little wonky. Not that fine-tuned, but you get used to it. Overall, it's a great way to play the original version of Quake 2 if you want to relive it exactly like you remember it. So overall, Quake 4 is an interesting release. I've always liked it. I beat it back in the day. It's a fun game, and especially this bonus disc here with Quake 2 on it. This was the premium way to have Quake 2 outside of PC for a very, very long time. So it's only till recently that wasn't the case. So yeah, Quake 4 on Xbox 360. It's crazy that Bethesda, along with Microsoft, haven't done anything with this. That would really be awesome for them to have backwards compatibility, because really, if you cleaned up the frame rate, this would be a really fantastic game to play, even in 2024. Next up, we have Wet, developed by Artificial Mind and Movement and published by Bethesda. Simply put, if you're a fan of Quentin Tarantino, you love bullet time, and you love insane action set pieces a la Matrix Reloaded, you're going to get a kick out of this game. What's really neat here is how great the bullet time feels. Anywhere from jumping to sliding and moving around and going into bullet time anytime you wish, and how you're able to shoot 2 targets at once as you do it. It's really nimble, really fresh, and really cool, and how you're able to engage your enemies. Now, I'm going to complain here. The way you have these objectives where there's basically these enemy spawn points in the walls that you have to find and take down, otherwise the enemies just infinitely come out of the walls. Once again, I've said it before, that's lazy design. I don't like that. But whatever, it's just kind of the time, and it's just a way for you to kill more enemies. I get it, but I am going to complain. One thing the game does really well is it encourages you to get better at the game as you play. With after-action reports after each scene, you see your combos and your score, and the higher score you get, the more experience points you get towards new moves. So it really incentivizes you to do better, and that's always enjoyable in a game where it rewards you for being better. And speaking of Matrix Reloaded, there's an entire sequence on a highway that is straight out of Matrix Reloaded, but in the best way possible. It's a lot of fun. It's thrilling. Yes, it's a set piece. It's linear, it's scripted, but man, is it thrilling and fun. This game is quite the action romp. I knew it was going in from a long time ago. I played it on demo a long time ago back in the day, but this is a very interesting game. If you like Stranglehold, Max Payne, Matrix, you name it, you're going to get a kick out of this game. It's a very arcade-style action romp. Quite a bit of a Quentin Tarantino Kill Bill vibe to it. So yeah, Wet. This is a very interesting game. I've really enjoyed this. I need to beat it so I can see the entire story. Next up, we have Alpha Protocol, the espionage RPG, developed by Obsidian and released by Sega. What I can easily say about Alpha Protocol is this really is the most unique title on this list. The fact that it's called the espionage RPG is very accurate. This game has a lot of depth, a lot of detail. If you're willing to kind of lose yourself in its world and dive deep into it with all the tools it gives you and all the different options you get and how to expand on the story and world, it's pretty crazy, actually. Now, to be honest, I discovered some goofy AI early on in the game where I was standing on top of a ladder, waiting for guys to climb up trying to find me, and I just kept beating them up and knocking them out as they came up the ladder. So yeah, the AI is exploitable, but it doesn't keep the game from being fun. It was just funny. The graphics here are actually quite nice with motion blur, which you didn't see all the time back in the 360 era. So it's well done here. Good resolution, good detail, character models. There's a lot of detail here. That's the thing. There's detail everywhere. Unlocking computers, which there's multiple different ways to hack things. At first, it seems a little daunting. Some of the mechanics of unlocking doors and hacking can be quite good. There's tons of weapon options you unlock by getting funds through the missions. So you can unlock attachments and enhancements to your character and weapons. So there really is as it says, RPG elements to this. The gunplay feels pretty good. I don't expect a Gears of War level polish of that type of gunplay. This is very different. It encourages stealth and encourages using your brain and thinking on the fly, utilizing your resources and your abilities. But kind of like Metal Gear Solid, it's really how you want to approach it, so it's kind of up to you. Also like Metal Gear Solid is how stellar the voice acting is. Very good voice acting, solid dialogue. Really interesting how the dialogue options you're given, and whether it be suave or professional or antagonistic, affects the relationship with the characters all throughout the game. So you have a lot of thought involved here in the choices you make and the consequences of those choices, reading dossiers of characters and knowing their background to understand what to do with them and how to talk to them. So there's a lot of depth here. If you're willing to lose yourself in it, I would imagine this game can be very involved. I really thought this was an interesting game. I'd never played it before. I never give it too much of a chance. I picked it up for cheap one day and thought, oh, this is actually supposed to be a hidden gem. And it really is a hidden gem. This game is very interesting. It's too bad it's not backwards compatible. It would absolutely be worthy to add to your current modern library. But hey, at least it's playable on Xbox 360. Our final game we're going to take a look at is Dynasty Warriors Gundam, developed by Bandai Namco and released by Koei. It's really simple, it's in the name. This is a Dynasty Warriors game through and through, but with the Gundam coat of paint on it, which is actually very cool. If you're not really too hip on the Dynasty themes of the hack and slash of that, but you want something different but with those same mechanics, that's exactly what you get here, especially if you're a fan of Gundam. This is pure Gundam anime here. Very, very cool. At first, I was having a hard time with the game. I kept dying and losing to missions, but once I got the hang of it and I selected the right character that suited me better in this playstyle, I was rocking and rolling and having a lot of fun. What's really impressive about the visuals, not only does it look nice, but it holds up in the frame rate really, really well with tons of enemies on screen, super polished, so very impressive for that generation in the frame rate side of things. Obviously, yes, there's going to be a bit of repetitiveness to it being a Dynasty Warriors game, but that's the thing. If you appreciate Dynasty Warriors, you understand the name of the game. But if you're not a fan, well, this may or may not sway you. What I really like is how when you're fighting any sort of boss, when you swing your sword at them or your weapon at them and you clash at the same time, which doesn't always happen automatically, but if you time it right and your swords collide, it actually goes into a little dialogue cutscene where you're talking to each other. So that's very cinematic and neat. I like how that just randomly happens and it feels organic. So at first, if you play this and it seems a little frustrating or it seems like you're having a hard time, just keep trying different characters and combinations until you find the one that suits you. Then you're able to progress through the levels, you get better at the game. There's a lot of meat and potatoes here. There's a lot of different combinations. I barely scratched the surface, to be honest, and I was really having a good time. I also like how, even though technically, mechanically, it's just like being on the ground, but it gives you the illusion of flying around in space and having combat. I actually like that they didn't go too in depth with making you fly around, because that would have been a little weird. So they kept the mechanics intact, but it makes you feel like you're floating around in space. So that was a neat trick they did. I really enjoyed that, which also gives it variety. What's also nice here is you can choose between Japanese and American voice acting, which I kind of went with the Japanese route because, to be honest, they repeat themselves quite often during combat. The Japanese makes it more tolerable, in my opinion. So Dynasty Warriors Gundam, this is a very fun game. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to trying out part 2 and 3, which I also have. Those are probably going to be in a future video. I've always really enjoyed Dynasty Warriors. The games can be pretty tough, but when you really stick with it, it gets easier, and it really comes down to the character you find that you play better with, and then you're able to hold your own and not die in the heat of battle. So yeah, Dynasty Warriors Gundam, very fun game. I highly recommend it. These are 5 Xbox 360 games that are not backwards compatible, that are still worth going back and checking out, keeping your Xbox 360 around, or in some cases, people never upgraded to Xbox One, so these are ones worth checking out. I hope you liked the video. Please like the video and subscribe. God bless, and have a wonderful day.